Hello, welcome back to Nanowrimo channel. I'm JMJ Booksmart, and today we're talking about my 5-star predictions of the year. These come out on my 26th and 26th list. Essentially, I pick 5 books from that list that I think are going to be 5 stars that normally have, I really try when I plan this stuff out. I plan it out so like content can be made around them. This is my most anticipated. Well, I know I'm going to make a single video about it. This is a great place to do it. I'll make sure it's I'll know for a fact that I need to do this, right? In other cases, there's so many books that are coming out next year that I'm making videos on them because of that, just because it's the book that's coming out. So I don't feel obligated to do this thing. I feel more aligned that I can pick 5 other books that I very much want to read that I feeling are going to be phenomenal. And so that's what I did. Of course, when I do a little bit of a self-promo, I did write 3 books. The first one's called Gunshot Residue. Follows Alex, Julie's husband is cheating on him. Shit goes awry. There's 3 books to complete a trilogy. You can read them now. Links are on my website. Links are also down below in case you just want to add it on Goodreads, put it on a TBR for next year or something, whatever you might want to do. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into this list. The first one is being Half His Age by Jenna McCurdy. I knew that I was going to put Jenna McCurdy on this list. One, I was going to have to talk about her fictional debut because her memoir was so transportive, it was so moving, it was so beautifully depressing and sad, and I felt horrible. Especially because Sam was the character that I related to the most, and I wanted to be the most as a kid. I always have felt this drawn towards Jenna McCurdy and the vulnerability that she would bring to her acting roles. I was blown away by her memoir when I read it when it came out in 2023, 2022 or something like that. And so she has written a book called Half His Age. This is from the #1 New York Times bestselling author of I'm Glad My Mom Died. Comes a sad, funny, thrilling novel about sex, consumerism, class, desire, loneliness, the internet, rage, intimacy, power, and oftentimes misguided lengths will go in order to get what we want. I know it has to do with grooming. I know it has to do with teenager, I think, falling in love with her professor. I'm not entirely sure what the whole thing here is. I also don't know how consensual it is. I don't know. I have a feeling it's gonna be a really interesting discussion, and these are the perfect type of videos to do this on. Also, has a high possibility of being a 5. If I don't think it's done really well, it also has a high possibility of being a failure, so it will make for a great discussion. The next one we're going to talk about is The Night We Met by Avery Mendez. This is normally the spot that I would put the newest Emily Henry. I'm not going to lie, I typically do put the Emily Henry in here because I like talking about the Emily Henry. We don't have an Emily Henry this year. She has a movie coming out at the beginning of January. I think that's going to be the extent of our Emily Henry content for this year. So we have The Night We Met instead by Avery Mendez, another great contender. I, have already put this on this list prior, had not given Avery Mendez a single 5-star. I just knew that she was going to be on this list because of this trade out, right? And I think for me personally, she is the next best author to do a trade out like this. Having read now 2 5-star reads, I do feel like there's a possibility this could be a 5-star. There has to be a great balance, and I don't think the Say You'll Remember Me So Far series that she's writing has a good enough balance to be a 5-star, but I do think it's going to introduce some interesting conversations. Essentially, this just says, comes a beautiful, compelling novel that revels in laughter, friendship, and messy choices I can throw one away. In everyone's life, there's a split-second decision that can change everything. I do feel like when you're old enough, you can look back on your life and be like, yeah, if I would have not opened that door, if I would not have woke up at that moment, my life would be different. If I would not have messaged this random person on Facebook, my life would be, you know what I mean? Everybody has a moment that changes them. So I do agree with that. So I'm curious to see what this relationship dynamic is like. Also, I'm curious to see if we're gonna get an amazing book boyfriend out of it. The next one is The Ending Writes Itself by Evelyn Clark. This is actually a 2-person job. So it's B. Schwab, which is why it's on this list. And she has a good friend named Kat Clark, who was a screenwriter turned author now. I don't know if this was a screenplay that she wrote or they wrote together and then they turned it into a book. I don't know what the plan here is. By the way, they sent out quite a few different author copies. I think there's 50 overall to figure out and told everybody to figure out what the authors are. I don't know how many people guessed it correct. I'm assuming most people couldn't guess Kat Clark as she's never written anything before. But V.E. Schwab has a very distinct writing voice in my opinion. So I definitely feel like I could have probably seen that she was in there. So I'm not sure. This had a lot of buzz behind it because of that particular reason. This follows 6 authors, 1 private island, 72 hours to write the ending that will change their lives. I know it's a mystery thriller. I'm assuming people start dying. Maybe if they write the bad ending, they die. I don't know the full concept, but I will be there. The next one I know very little about and very little has been said about it except for a release date, and that is Heartstopper Volume 6. I've been debating back and forth if I was going to put a Heartstopper on this list. More than likely, this is going to be a 5-star read. It's almost guaranteed to be a 5-star read. There's no way that this series could not end. It could not be one of the best books I read next year, if not the best book that I read next year. So it's just a stacked year. But there's no way it can't be in my top books of next year. But I was also like, if it's such a gimme should I put it on a list like this? Is there anything to talk about? This video is going to contain spoilers. How could I not? This is volume 6. However, I have cemented my reading journey of Alice Oseman's world so cementedly on this channel that I was like, there's no way I can't talk about this. So we're doing Heartstopper volume 6. I don't know anything except it's the final installment. I know a lot of people have a lot of previews and stuff because it has been updated on Webtoon, and these are just coming off of there and the whole 9 yards. So if you do want to know some more meatier information, I tried reading it on Webtoons. There's something about it that just didn't click, whereas other stories that I've started them in volumes and switched over to their original design I liked better on Webtoons than I did anywhere else. Heartstopper is not one of them. I will not be going down that road. However, it is there if you do want to read it. Then lastly, we have Theodore's Tea Shop by Christine Jones. I originally had this list was made up like 3 or 4 author tubers, but then I was like, that's not fair. I mean, some of them I've read from before that I'm like, I mean, it could be a 5. Other ones I've never read from before who are having debuts that I'm hoping are a 5. This is the case. Christine Jones is an Australian booktuber, author tuber that I have been following for a ridiculous amount of time that in a lot of ways have saved my writing and saved my motivation when I was at my lowest. So I have like a lot of respect for her. That being said, this is a richly imagined, dark and dazzling, cozy fantasy about learning to love oneself by the wondrous new author, and I'm just so excited to be able to get to it and to be able to read it and to enjoy it with you guys. These are the 5 books I chose for 2026, and let me know in the comments down below if you have any 5-star predictions, or if you're kind of going into it blind, just like whatever it's going to be. Obviously, I have a few others. If you want to check out the 26 and 26 list, there's like maybe 4 or 5 I also think on that list. So this could have been a 10 book list or whatever that it could be. Could be that. I'll talk to you all next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.